I am Soumita, VP Asia Pacific for MOBILEWALLA, which is a consumer data and tech company. Uh, what we do is we try to understand consumer behavior by looking at various signals that come from mobile devices. And customers would use this data for various kinds of audience understanding, segmentation, or even modeling. I've been with this company for over 6 years, 6.5 years now, and I must say I've been very privileged to be a part of a company where I started with pretty much no revenue in the region to where we are with multi-million-dollar revenue. So it's been a roller coaster ride, and I couldn't have asked for a better opportunity, for myself in the last 6 years or so. Every journey has its own start, and I would say my journey started 20 years back, long time, in India, where I joined an engineering college. And the reason I'm talking about engineering is because I think it's very important for, skill set that I acquired in those 4 years. I consider myself analytical. What I do today is a lot because of what I have, learned in my early education, right? So engineering, post-engineering, I actually did what a lot of typical Indians do. I joined an IT services company. I spent 6 and a little over 6 years there, spent my time in India and US, where I was consulting for large financial institutes. I was a coder. You can imagine I used to code at one point. But at after 6-ish years, I felt that I wanted to see world beyond what a coder sees. And I got a little, itchy that, hey, yeah, there's so much out there. So I decided that the best way for me would be to, get an MBA. So I went to INSEAD Business School. It's one of the top, 5 business schools globally. And that sort of changed my perspective as well. So I wanted to experiment a little bit with my career as well. Suppose that I joined an, startup. That's what I wanted to do. And then see, hey, can I cope, startup life? But fortunately, I've been with startups for ever since. Last 6 years we've been with MOBILEWALLA, so I'm sort of stuck here. But it's been, as I said, very enjoyable journey. Seeing a startup grow from nothing to where we are, and we have we have to become bigger than we are. But it has been a very, very incredible journey, and no complaints essentially of where I am today. Spending long hours at home, when you have to talk to your colleagues remotely, it's efficient. I think we have discovered that working remotely works, but it possibly can be more efficient if you can meet that person and talk face to face, right? So one thing, I guess, what we miss is having that real one-to-one discussion, seeing your face, sitting for a coffee, that's missing. And, and with companies like ours, we're tech companies, small company, it's very important that, you ideate together. So that's something we are missing, definitely. But we have also evolved in terms of, how we are, doing businesses. I do business meetings over Zoom. We use Teams, and we aren't closing deals even, when we are working remotely. Pre-pandemic, I would travel every month twice. And we thought that this was it was important for us to go and meet the customer and do it. I still believe it's important in some ways, but you realize that it's possible post, pandemic, when you're doing things remotely. But in terms of industry, I would definitely see that, we're spending so much time on internet, on our devices. And as a data company, we're realizing that we are generating way more data today, right? There was a study by IBM which said that the total data generated in the last 3 years is actually 90% of the overall data generated ever, right? I mean, we have been in civilization for centuries, and you have like last 3 years generates 90% of your overall data. That's something, right? And with this pandemic, I would say, we are generating way more data, and organizations actually realize that, that all these data that is being generated, it needs to be put into some good use. You can use this data in better decision making. You can actually utilize this data in better AI modeling. and companies are realizing that. But unfortunately, what has happened because of the pandemic is that budgets have slowed down. People are not spending on that. So I think we're seeing that things would slow down for a year a bit, where innovation would be a little slow. But post that, I think all organizations realize that you can't ignore this fact that data is important. I have to utilize my data in an effective way. One of the skills which, irrespective of where pandemic, no pandemic, is perseverance, I would say, right? And a role like mine, which is a revenue role, you end up getting a lot of no's in your when you go to and talk to a customer, right? So it's not easy, right? So if someone says no, it hurts you, right? So but ability to take all those no's and wait for that one yes answer is important, right? So you should have that inside you, that be able to handle rejections so well. And I think, I personally feel, is very, very important. And it's not just in this role, in any role, as you grow and as you evolve in your career, this could happen. You will see a lot of rejections. So, having grit, perseverance is super, super important in a role like that. The second thing is, it's also a relationship-based role. Yes, your product is important, what you're selling is important. But having the ability to connect to your customers is important. And the way we used to do that pre-pandemic was you would go meet them, socialize with them, make them, explain them the product, but also talk about the other things, right? Which has become difficult now. So what I suggest is, use technology well. If you're talking to someone, put on your video so they can at least see you, right? See your expressions. You can show them that you're excited, how much you value them, or bring relevant people. Because with technology, when you're using a remote meeting, you can bring in people remotely, right? So if you can bring your technology folks, your data scientists, product guys into the call and show that value that you give to the customer, I think that goes a long way. So you need to strategize in terms of how do you show value to a client post pandemic. But end of the day, you have to figure out different ways to build relationships when they can't see you in person. And I think the third important thing is also very important, is to understand customers' point of view. A lot of people just go and say, hey, this is what I have. But most important part of that entire selling journey is to understand the pain point the customer has, and go with the solution, saying that, hey, my product can help you in these ways, not just go and, hey, this is what I have, right? So that's very important as well. You need to understand, look at the customer's point of view, and then create your solution. So the first point I would say, which I have learned over the years, is to look at your career as a journey, right? Typically someone would have a career of 25 to 35 years, right? And we'll go through ups and downs. And a lot of us actually look at the downs and we give up. It's important to think that, hey, lows are going to be there, but there's a light end of the tunnel. Persevere, just ensure that you are there. There is a low phase, you would be able to manage that. And I've been through that, I'm sure you have, and everyone else has, right? It's important not to give up. And especially in the context of women, I have seen that, when they are they always have this conflict when they have a child, first 2-3 years, that, hey, how do I focus on my personal life when there's so much of work? And I would say that it's a matter of 2-3 years. You just manage it somehow. And in a 35-year journey, 5 years is actually nothing. So ensure that you have a sort of a vague plan about your journey, that, hey, this is what I want. Plans don't work, I tell you, but it's good to have something in your mind that, hey, this is what I plan to do. Same thing is be a learner. We should not think that I have spent 15-20 years in the industry, I know everything. And it's not necessary you have to learn only about the industry. There's so much to learn out there, right? I mean, I can learn from you, I can learn from functions which I've not been involved with, right? So be a forever learner, I would say. It's very important to be a good learner, because without that, at one point you would realize that you're becoming a dinosaur and you're not relevant in the current context. So it's so important that you continuously innovate and learn. And the third point is give yourself time, enjoy life. It's not about just career and growth. It's also, people who are happy actually also thrive well in their careers. So do that as well. So that's all I would say.